What's up, my friend? Abby here, and welcome back to Ask Abby, where I answer your writing questions and help you make your story matter. If you're new around here and you're not sure how this works, here's the deal. You ask me questions and I show up here on YouTube once a month to answer those questions, and there are two ways to submit questions to the show. The first way is to hit the join button below this video, get inside the YouTube community, find the post in the community tab for Ask Abby, and post your question in a comment on that post. The second way is to go to patreon.com/AbbyEmmons, get inside the Inner Circle group, and post your question there. Make sure you hashtag it Ask Abby so that I see it. I randomly choose 3 to 4 questions each month, and some really good questions came in last month, and I wasn't able to answer them because we were doing our writing retreat, so I'm here today to answer some of those questions. Roll that intro, and let's get started.
Why does your story matter? Good question. What if I told you that there's a science behind every great story? I don't just teach you how to write. I teach you how to change the world with your story and make your author dreams come true.
Okay, first question comes from Lori. Hi Abby, I'm self-published in the contemporary romance genre, but I also want to write paranormal. Should I keep my current name I've used in the contemporary genre or choose a pen name? What are the pros and cons, if any? Okay, so this is a great question, and I hear this question a lot in the indie author space. In my opinion, changing your pen name based on separate branding as far as genres of your books go is kind of a thing of the past. And I say that because with the age of the internet, so much has changed in the publishing industry, and we no longer, as authors, we no longer seek visibility through getting our books into brick and mortar bookstores or selling to a specific genre audience. What most indie authors are having success with now is building a readership around their brand as an author, not necessarily around a specific genre or a line of books. Now, some indies have had success. I have heard some success stories from some indies who change their name based on what kind of book they're publishing for a specific genre or a specific series. But I personally advise against this because branding one author name, one genre is a lot of work. And branding 2 separate names and 2 separate genres and 2 separate, series of books is almost like doubling your workload. After a while, you start to feel like Peter Parker trying to also be Spider-Man. Stress. Which is why I personally recommend staying with one pen name or going with your real name and focusing 100% of your efforts on building up a readership fan base for you as an author. You can still end up targeting different audiences with your advertising when the time comes, when you've published these 2 separate genres, but you'll do yourself a favor long term if you have fewer plates to spin and more collective readers following one brand. It doesn't matter if some of your books are dramatically different in genre and tone. Your readers will know what's right for them. When you publish a book, they will know whether or not they're interested in it just based off of how it looks, what the cover is like, what the description tells them about the book. You can be very clear and upfront about what kind of book it is, and you might find that you actually convert a lot more of your potential readers to follow through and read all of your books. You might find that you convert romance readers to enjoy your paranormal stories as well, and vice versa. So that's my advice in a nutshell. Keep it all in the same space, less stress, more readers. Okay, next question comes from Faye Marie. Hi, I have a question about the 3-act structure for a series, please. I am currently outlining book 1, and under the second pinch point it says the antagonistic force is getting closer. And then in Supposed Victory, it says the protagonist thinks they are winning, but little do they know that disaster is on its way. I'm still not sure if I want to write my story in first or third person, mostly because I haven't written anything in third person. So my question is, if I choose first person, how could I possibly convey that the antagonist is getting closer to the MC if the MC is unaware of this? After all, first person means I can only tell the audience what the MC or protagonist knows herself. Any advice on this would be greatly appreciated. So that's a great question, and it's definitely a tricky thing to incorporate vicarious suspense into your story without going to the villain's point of view, which is why the first method I'd recommend for this, at least recommend considering, is switching to the point of view of an antagonist or someone on the antagonist's side of the story. Now, that doesn't have to be an antagonistic character. It could be one of the protagonists or one of the side characters or even the main character that is able to somehow get a sneak peek at what the antagonist is working on behind closed doors. I'm a big fan of first person as well. I do not like writing third person. I don't even like reading third person, really. A lot of times when I'm reading third person, I even change it in my head to be first person because I like first person so much better. So I totally understand this conundrum. The second way to do this, if you don't want to switch to another point of view, is to simply show us what the protagonist is planning in retaliation to the antagonist. So maybe the protagonist has had some clues as to what the antagonist is planning and how they maybe are taking steps closer or flexing in some way that intimidates the protagonist. So your MC has kind of received some clues. Maybe they think they know what the antagonist is planning, but they're not right. They're not completely right, but they think they're right. You know what I mean? And based on what they've collected, based on the clues that they've gathered, they are planning a counterattack of some kind. Okay, and this will only work for certain stories, certain genres where you have like a villain character. But assuming that that's what you're working with here, that's what it sounds like to me. You have the protagonist thinking they understand the situation and plotting to outsmart the villain. And then the surprise disaster moment plot point is when they realize they actually have not outsmarted the villain and the villain has more power and control than ever. So there's never one size fits all for anything regarding story, and that's what I like about the 3-act story structure is more of the principles behind it, not so much that it has to fulfill every single story beat. So if you feel that your story is rich enough and compelling enough without the vicarious suspense, maybe you don't need that. Maybe your reader actually can feel the suspense building without any view into what's happening in the antagonist's side of the story. This is especially true of contemporary. So I have a lot of writers ask me, how do I write suspense into contemporary or realistic fiction where there's no villain, there's no really bad thing that's gonna happen? With contemporary and realistic fiction, a lot of times we have suspense in untold truths. So a lot of times in contemporary stories, we have characters who conceal information from other characters. They're maybe keeping secrets or maybe telling half-truths or letting other characters kind of live in this disillusion. And nobody is fully aware of everyone else's intentions. And that can create this really nuanced, interesting suspense where you kind of can see what's going to be revealed eventually. You know the truth is going to come out eventually. It's just a question of when. I've seen this done time and time again. It really does engage the reader or the viewer. It really pulls you into the story to know what secrets the characters are keeping from each other and what is the consequence of those secrets being revealed. Because you know at some point it's going to come to light and it's going to create more conflict. So that's one way to kind of bring suspense into more realistic stories without having to switch to an antagonist's side of the story. All right, next question comes from Let's Change. Hi, Abby. Recently, I've been stuck with the notion that my story should be perfect, so much so that I couldn't move further from the outlining stage. The most I could bring myself to do was open Scrivener and close it immediately. Also, I struggle to watch movies or read books because I'm starting to see flaws in them and couldn't bring myself to go through it. How should I let go of perfectionism and maybe embrace flaws and enjoy reading and writing again? Learn to embrace imperfections and recognize that even your favorite books, your favorite movies, your favorite songs, your favorite pieces of art have imperfections. They're not flawless, and that's okay as long as they are inspired. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by Beethoven and goes, "To play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable." And I remind myself of this every time I'm playing piano, but also when I'm doing other things, when I'm writing, when I'm creating anything. I try to remind myself that this doesn't have to be technically perfect as long as it is creative and inspired. Passion and creativity is what counts in art, not technical perfection. And as an artist, you have to embrace the mess because it's gonna be a mess. And you can technically improve that mess, yes, but it won't ever be flawless, and that's okay because nothing is flawless. And in my opinion, you can't achieve the technical perfection without also losing the passion and the creativity. At least that's always been my experience. When I try to do something technically perfect, I no longer have passion for it. And a lot of times I don't feel creative towards it either. So what's more important to you, you know? Is it being technically perfect, being flawless, or being inspired and being able to create something that is creative and passionate and inspires others? Also, perfection is totally subjective. Like, just think of any book that you've seen lots of raving 5-star reviews for, and I guarantee you can also find lots of people who hated that book. Like, some people will say, this is the best book that was ever written, and other people will say, this is the worst book I've ever read. So, like, what is that? There is no ideal, objective definition of perfection. So you can't achieve something that isn't even real. Whoa, think about that for a minute. Okay, last question comes from Sam. Hello, Abby, I did it. I finished my book, edited the snot out of it, ran it by a group of beta readers, got an awesome cover, self-published on Amazon, and launched it on Reedsy. Now the big question, how do I get people to know it exists? I've got a blog and I've been handing out free copies to many of my friends. This isn't something I'm doing for money, but I'm still not sure how to build my presence. What's the best thing I could be doing? Oh man, this is a huge answer. It will probably take me like several hours to answer this question fully, but I will try to condense the most important points. So when it comes to publishing, there are two kinds of promotion: organic promotion and paid promotion. Both have pros and cons, but both are necessary in order to get in front of your readers. That's why I always say it is never too early to start creating conversation about your book. And I like to use this term creating conversation rather than promoting or advertising, because creating conversation is forging a deeper connection with your readership. So now, as we shift away from the promotion advertising language and we shift to creating conversation, the whole approach changes. Creating conversation is about creating community, just like building a platform is about building relationships. And a blog is a great place to start doing this. Ask yourself, what can I offer my readers? What can I build a reputation on that makes my readers enjoy interacting with me? And for a while, for the early days, this might involve you reaching out to other bloggers and starting to build these relationships with them. So when I first started blogging, I had a master list of all these blogs that I knew my readers, my potential readers, my future readers, that's where they hang out. And I spent time, like multiple times a week, I would go to every single one of these blogs and just comment thoughtfully on the first or the newest blog post on each of these blogs. And what that did was it wasn't like a follow for follow, please check out my blog, please check out my book. I wasn't asking anything of anyone. I was simply starting to build relationships. And at the time I didn't have a book out yet, so I didn't have anything really to send people to, but it was building the foundation. And anyone watching this right now, even if you don't have a book out there right now, even better if you haven't published yet, because now is the time to start. You need to start before you're ready. You need to start before you think you have anything to give anyone, because that is where invention starts, right? Necessity is the mother of invention, and you have a goldmine that you have not yet explored. So find these little ways to enter the space, to make your presence known, and to start building relationships. Is organic promotion very labor intensive and tedious? Yes. Yes, it is. But believe me when I say, from experience, that it pays off. big time in the long run. Also, I want you to check out this podcast that I did with my sister, in which I shared my best tips for self-promotion as an indie author. And I shared stuff in that podcast that I haven't shared anywhere else. So I highly recommend checking that one out. Lots of value in that podcast. And I'm looking forward to unpacking kind of more of the technical, smaller steps to what I present in that episode in videos here on this channel coming soon. So stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to making a lot more indie author videos in the future, near future, on this channel. Okay, boom, that's it. Thank you guys for the amazing questions. I hope that you found my replies valuable and helpful. If you would like to ask a question for Ask Abby, you know what to do. Hit the join button below this video, get inside the YouTube community and post your question there, or go to patreon.com/Abby Emmons, get inside the Inner Circle Facebook group, and you also will get a ton of awesome extra valuable perks and benefits from being inside the Patreon community. I hope to see you over there. Thank you guys again for being here. Smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing videos every single Wednesday, and I would love to have you here in the community. Until next week, my friend, rock on. Physical books, but if you do have the room in your budget, I would highly recommend buying a box of your own books and making a video. This is what I did for 100 Days of Sunlight. Film a video of yourself that you are going to send to some bookstagrammers that you have handpicked and selected for this, telling them about your book, very organic.